Hello and welcome back to SJ Cartier Limited Controls. And today, as I said in my previous video, I am so confused why there is so much debate between Christians, Muslims and Jewish. Because for me personally as a Muslim man, I believe all the books were sent down from one. I believe all the books were trying to teach us how to treat each other and how we should carry ourselves for humans, nature, and everything that has been put on this earth that is basically unexplainable. For example, I give one example before I get into the first part. The example of what I mean is, for me as a Muslim, I should treat every human, every living being with the utmost respect and appreciate them, because just like me, there's no scientific method to prove what has put us, the humans, on this planet. And if we, the humans, cannot even understand where we come from, how can we understand where these million animals and these million plants and vegetation also come from? And when we start to realize the beauty of the human body, we start to realize the beauty of every animal, and we start to realize the beauty in nature. So as a Muslim, that's how I feel. And then as a Christian previously, that's how I was supposed to feel, because as I said in my last video, in the shorts that I showed you, me personally, as a Christian, I didn't actually feel that how to explain it? I didn't feel that godly blessings. And it's quite sad to feel that as a Christian, when I was growing up, I couldn't admire the natural beauties around me. And it took Islam to allow me to notice the natural beauties that this world has given us. Even, I'm going to show you a little example now. So if you looked at one of my last shorts, you'll see I said good morning. The reason I said good morning, because we are actually currently in Tenerife. And when you look at that, do you not see the beauties of this world just in this little shot? Look at all the greenery. The greenery makes everything just look so much more beautiful. And I think as a Christian, I may not admire this. As a Muslim, I actually do. You see, from the mountains to the clouds, to the greenery, to the little houses scattered about, just so beautiful. The beauties in this world, I didn't realize as a Christian. I realize it now as a Muslim. So now let's get into the similarities, because for me, as I say, I'm really confused how there's so much discrepancies between religions, when in fact we all are supposed to be feeling the same oneness. And the first part is right now going to be on the clothing and the similarities in how a Muslim, a Christian and a Jewish person should be dressing. So I'm going to read some things that I've already downloaded. And as you may realise, I'm not really one for popping a load of things up on the screen, but I'll do that for you so you can actually get a little read and see where I'm getting them from. They are screenshots, but I did get them from Google. And something as well that Islam has taught us, yes, we have to spread knowledge, but we should never ever trust the knowledge until we've researched the knowledge ourselves. So just because I'm telling you these things, it's for you to take it upon yourself to look into these things and actually question your possible thought plans and why you have any discrepancy against any other person from another religion, or even just anyone that just honestly believes there's one God and may not find their path or know which path is for them, but they know, they admire and appreciate everything that the one has put here for us. So I'm going to explain to you what our Muslim men and women should dress, and I'm going to go into the Christian women and men, and then go into Jewish women and men. So Muslim men and women should dress modestly in public, meaning clothing should be loose fitting, opaque, and cover most of the body. The specific requirements vary, but generally for women, this includes covering their hair, their body from neck to the ankles, while men must cover the area from the navel, which is the belly button, to the knees. The intention behind dressing is to be modest, to please Allah, and to avoid drawing undue attention, which, as a man, we overstand that as a man. Women may not get that, but then you do get that, because if you saw a man with his top off and his body's ripped, you may look. You don't know, that could be someone's husband, that could be someone's partner, that's someone's father, but you're having a gander. And it's the same with us as men. We may walk along the beach and see bikinis, and because the fact of these bikinis showing a lot of skin, regardless of whether that man is unfaithful or not, his eyes are being unfaithful. And if you can stop that by a woman covering up and a man covering up, we then don't have wandering eyes. We then don't have the what's the word? The encouragement to feel like, oh, that's open for me, or that's love. You don't get that. So for Muslim women, they cover the body. Clothing should be loose and opaque, covering areas considered private. Traditional Islamic dress for women often includes a headscarf, hijab, to cover the hair, and looser outer garments like an abaya or a jibab that covers the body from neck to ankles. Avoid specific types of clothing. Tight or see-through clothing is generally discouraged. Clothing should also not be overly decorative, fragranced, or a form of self-adornment that draws excessive attention. And when we actually look around now, is that what we're all like? Are we all falling away from God? Because look at me now. I know even me personally now. Let me show you, because as I say, my YouTube, it's not just for me to talk about people, it's also to recollect on myself and my actions and how I am moving on a day-to-day basis in my life, and be more aware to things myself in whatever way I can. So although that says women's clothes should be like that, even then it reminds me as a man, I shouldn't be having overly designed garments on. I shouldn't be. I also recognise I shouldn't have something with a face. At first I did believe the face was completely hidden, but now I can actually see a smile. Something I should be aware of when I'm buying clothes. Maintain modesty. Some interpretations suggest that women should also cover their faces, though this is a point of differing opinions. The key is to cover the body and hair in a way that is considered modest and respectful. And this is where I think a lot of people get a lot of misjudgments from, because they may think, oh, why are the Muslim women completely covering their face? Well, the reason they may have done that is because their beauty in their face was not hiding, and even when their whole body was covered, the beauty in their face shined through still. So even for me, it doesn't matter that my woman wears a hijab and has a full outfit on, because the beauty in her face shines through anyway to me. And also that is something that could encourage other people if we understand that. So if we believe that we are attracting attention due to any feature of our body, it is down to us as a Muslim to cover that part of our body, to not draw unwanted attention, especially when you are already in a relationship. So for Muslim men, cover the body. Men are required to cover the area from the navel to the knees. Loose fitting garments are preferred. Avoid specific types of clothing. Clothing should not be tight or see-through. Avoid certain materials. For example, men are forbidden from wearing garments made of pure silk or jewelry made of gold. General standards. Clothing should also not resemble the specific attire of a woman or the clothing of non-Muslims in a way that could be seen as ostentatious. Yeah. Now I'm going to go into how the Christians should dress. And if we remember the things, the words, modest, remember a lot of these words that I've been saying, modesty, yeah, loose fitting, covering the body, trying not to draw unwanted attention. Please remember the main specifics of why Muslim women dress the way they do. And now listen to the way Christians should dress. Christians should dress in a manner that reflects their values, emphasizing modesty, dignity, and respect for others. But there is no single universally prescribed dress code. Biblical principles suggest avoiding overly revealing clothing that draws undue sexual attention, and some interpretations also advise against cross-dressing. Ultimately, how one dresses is a personal decision that should be guided by one's conscious and cultural context, with a focus on what is respectful and glorifies God. And now, when you hear that first passage of how a Christian should dress, do you see Christians dressing like that today? Other than and none? How many Christian women can you say, when, let's say we go to a church and randomly, how many Christian women in that church are dressing modestly? And it's not here me trying to have a go at Christians. My point is, as I said in the previous short that got a lot of likes and a lot of appreciation, because the main vocal point of that is, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it's how you act, it's how you treat everybody and everything else. And just like as they say here, as I said, Islam was sent to clarify any discrepancies from any of the previous books that caused debate. So as you see, Christians are told to dress modestly, with dignity and respect for others. And the main point I'm trying to get is revealing clothing that draws undue sexual attention. And when we look at what Islam is trying to specify, it gave us direct rules about to specifically keep our body not looking overly sexualized for randomers around us, whether they're taken, whether we're taken or not. And it's all about a perception. So the perception, I believe, was lost in humans because we started wearing a lot more revealing. So as we started wearing a lot more revealing, God, Allah, I use God because I don't want people to get confused when I say Allah, but understand they are all just one. So when I'm saying it, God would like us to understand what is kind of beautiful to us. He gave us the chance to make these decisions for ourselves. And as a human being, we know what could be revealing. We know what could attract people. So it's for us to restrain ourselves from showing certain. We've got a lot of bikes around here. One thing I've realised in the Canary Islands, there's a lot of bikes. Wow. But yeah, it's for us to actually take have a look at what we believe may draw attention and to cover that up. But in Christianity, it wasn't precise. It wasn't laid down for us by strict rules as the way the Quran is. Overstand this, please. It wasn't laid down. So when I said to you, Allah brought the Quran because to guide the people that were being lost when they were following the previous books, that's exactly why he gave us the strict rules for how women and men should be dressing, because it's more modest, and that's exactly what the Christians are asking for. Now, the general principles of a Christian: modesty and dignity. The Bible encourages modest apparel, which doesn't mean being plain, but rather avoiding clothes that is overly revealing or seductive. This is seen as a way to honor God and to avoid causing others to stumble. So overstand it. It's not about us not being allowed to share our body and share the beauties of ourselves. It's for us to not feel that use our beauty to mislead others. And if we dress modestly, we're not only pleasing our partner and ourselves, but we're pleasing the Almighty. Modesty and dignity seen as a way to honor God and avoid causing others to stumble. Like, how many Christians right now are walking the street with their everything out? Muslims do it as well. Jewish people do it as well. Overstand the percentage of the people though, and understand where did we lose the track? Where we lost the message that God was trying to give us. And then when we look at the next general principle, which is focus on the heart, God is concerned with a person's inner character over outward appearance, and dressing is a reflection of one's values. So it doesn't matter, again, as I said to my partner before, just because a woman's overly dressed does not mean that they're not overly open. It still has to carry within their heart that I'm dressed modest and I'm going to behave modestly. It's not for you to dress modestly and then go and act like a dirtbag, basically. If we overstand that, because it's about focusing on our heart. This is what Christianity was trying to teach us. Focus on your heart. How do you want to please the main one? How do you want to please your spouse? How do you want to please or not overly please other randomers? So even when we think about it, a lot of women will say, why do men watch me? Maybe because you've got a certain part of your body that is overly shown, that is overly expecting, that makes a man overly expect that, oh, you're open. Do we get that? So, example, I don't club, I don't drink or anything no more. But back in the day when I used to drink and club, the first perception of a woman dressed with everything out is that she's very open to party tonight, for me. When you start talking to them, not everybody was open to party, but the first assumption is what we got. You seem like you're open to party right now. Doesn't mean you're open to party. You may actually be open to party, maybe just not with me. But you didn't show that in the way you were dressed. You didn't show that. And then if we overstand it, even thinking, there's so many beautiful Muslim women out there. But why do certain men not approach Muslim women who are dressed in the full attire as much as they may approach a non-Muslim woman? Have we ever asked that question? Why do Muslim women not get approached on the street on a day-to-day basis when they are dressed like that compared to a Muslim woman? Let's not even talk about religion, let's just focus on Muslim women. The Muslim women that walk the street and don't dress as modest as the Quran teaches them, how many people approach them? And then flip it on the side of the Muslim women that are doing the sunnah, dressing the way that Allah has asked us to. How many times do they get approached by a man that is out there looking for a new woman? How many times? And why do they not? Because when we overstand that main point, we will overstand literally why God, Allah, has asked men and women to dress modestly. Now, let's continue. Avoiding cross-dressing. Some biblical interpretations point to Old Testament laws against cross-dressing. Deuteronomy 22:5. Some biblical interpretations point to Old Testament laws, and I'm repeated that point, Old Testament laws, because this is where I believe a lot of Christianity gets lost. If you are following the New Testament, I feel like you may be misguided more than you even know. If you're sticking to the Old Testament, I feel you may be able to find the powers that God, Allah, was trying to bless us with. Because as he says here, some biblical interpretations point to Old Testament laws. It shows in the Old Testament the laws were there, but they were not clear for us. They were not clear. That's why we didn't follow the laws of the book. And even when I laugh and think, how many people were marching saying they want England to be a Christian country yet again? But how many of them people marching and talking about they want the country to be Christian are actually following their Christian morals of how they should be? Question we should be asking. So let's continue. Avoiding cross-dressing. A lot of, as we realise as well, a lot of people now, and I'm not going to be, I'm not discriminating, but overstand my point, what I'm going to say. I'm not judging against any gay, lesbian, cross-dressing, transsexual. It's your life, you do as you please. But that does not mean that I have to say I accept it as, how to put it, that's not to say that I believe that it is accepted. I'm just accepting you as a person because that's your journey. Who am I to judge your journey? I don't know what's in your head. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know how you feel, so I can't judge your journey. But then for me to want to take that same path, I have to obviously realise that is wrong and I shouldn't be cross-dressing. I shouldn't be being gay. And even in my times where my lust may have made me like lesbians, I have to realise that is even wrong for me, and it was a lust for me. So overstanding, even in the Bible, it's telling you in the Old Testament that cross-dressing should not be allowed, but we find now in a lot of Christian communities that they seem to want to push that acceptance of LGBTQ. That's all I've got to say with that. As I say, we should respect and not judge each other. So it's not for us to judge, but if that's something you don't agree with and you understand your book and you really want to be Christian, you should realise that that is possibly not accepted in your culture if you are following the Old Testament. Emphasising, okay, against cross-dressing. Deuteronomy 22:5, remember that. Emphasising that men and women should present themselves in ways that are distinct to their gender. This is not generally interpreted as a prohibition against wearing pants, but rather against a deceptive or confusing presentation. So again, in a sense, when I'm reading it now, because remember, I read things, I have my mind, I've got my topic, but I'm learning as I talk to you myself. So what I learned from that is just like in Islam and just like in Christianity, the main aim is not to mislead somebody else, not to mislead them. So if we are overly showing our skin, we may mislead this other person over here to think we are open. If we are overly dressing if I dress in a female way, some men may think I'm female until they approach me, which then could bring a lot of shame, could bring a lot of anger, could bring a lot of regret, could bring a lot to this person. So it's all about how we are perceived by everybody else around us. It's not about what you are doing, it's how you are perceived. It's how you are perceived, how you are allowing people to perceive you. If that is you, that is you. You don't care, that's how you want to be perceived. But then I've seen a Pop the Balloon UK where they told them to come on a dating show for women, and then they brought a transsexual on the lineup. Are you crazy? None of the men there came here asking for a transsexual. So to bring a woman who is a man and trying to act female and say, oh, you don't like me, and it was disgusting to me. But then again, I realise a lot of this YouTube isn't about the realness. It's about, oh, we don't want to seem wrong. Well, that was wrong. And I would have had an issue if that was me in the lineup, because it's like, now I can't, now think about it, overstand it. None of those men could then say, I'm going against this woman or man. It's a woman as a presentation, but it's a man behind there. None of them could have a go at them, because then they would be judged for being prejudiced. How are they supposed to act? Again, as I say, in the Christian, it says rather against a deceptive or confusing presentation. That's deceptive. Man come on here looking for a woman and man are leaving with a woman that's a man, or being presented with that. Unacceptable. Cultural context. How one dresses can vary widely based on personal preference, cultural norms, and specific church traditions. Some churches have more casual environments, while others have more formal guidelines. Now, I'm going to ask this question before I move on to the practical considerations for women and men. I'm going to ask you this question. Why are all churches got different dress sense? Are you not all considering the one book? So if you go into any masjid, the women should be all dressed the same. You shouldn't go into a masjid and find women that aren't got the hijab and everything on. I love to see it as well. I don't go into the women's side. I may have to ask my partner about this after. But overstand that. Why are churches being misled? Some are sticking to the traditional roots, but some are not. Because, as I said in the previous, our desires have misled us. So some people have built a church now and believe they are going to manage the church by their rules and not by the Bible's rules. Because if they were admiring by the Bible's rules, they'll be like the traditional churches when you go in there. Thoughts for us. This is what I'm about. Let us think and not just presume, because a lot of us seem to presume. Let's not presume. Let's actually research and understand for ourselves. Practical considerations for women. For women, modest dress often involves avoiding low-cut necklines. So just like Islam says the women should cover their neck, same way the Christians say you should avoid low-cut necklines. Yeah. Short hemlines or clothing that shows the midriff or is see-through. Does that sound familiar to what the Islam dress code is? Just a thought. It can be about avoiding clothing that is improper and instead choosing things that are becoming and respectable. For men, the principle of not cross-dressing implies a distinction in dress between men and women, though what this means practically is often debated. Wow. Wonder why? Because the lust, the desires of certain people, and as I say, trying to make everybody fit in, when in fact we're all gonna fit into one book. We ain't supposed to make people fit into what the book is asking. The book's already told us, so we've got to fit into the book, not make the book fit into our lifestyle, if we understand that. Now let's go to how the Jewish should dress. Yeah. Jewish dress varies across different communities, but traditional Orthodox clothing emphasize modesty. Again, modesty, the key word of Muslims, Christians and Jewish is to dress modestly regardless of your sex. Modestly, yeah? And includes specific garments like the kippah, which is a skull cap for men, and hair coverings for married women. The principle of tiznut, modesty, is central, meaning men and women dress in ways that do not attract undue attention, often covering the elbows, knees and collarbones. Specific religious items like the talit, prayer shawl, and tzitzit fringes are worn for prayer. So let's go through a couple of the names of the men's things they wear and a couple of the names of the women's things that they wear and overstand it. But then I'm going to actually show you, remember the order these books came in. I've gone backwards with this one, yeah? I've gone backwards. I started with Muslims as we're the most newish religion. Then I've gone back into Christian, which was the previous, and now I'm going back into the Jewish. And if we understand what the Jewish is telling us there about hair coverings for men and women, we can see in when the Bible was given, certain things like hair coverings for the Jewish was only for married women. Now as a Muslim woman, it doesn't matter whether you're married or not, it makes no difference if you understand that. Because although you may not be married, the man that is watching you may be married, and it's about the assumption of the people around us. Remember this, remember this. So you see the Jewish scripture, and we see how it was told in the Christian, and now we see what the final should be, because it's strictly, the rules are strict now. As you hear with the Jewish, is a bit more lenient there in what they're saying. It's just a skull cap, they say, and a hair coverings for the married women, but the principle is to just dress modest. You decide how to dress modest, but certain parts should be covered, whether you're a man or a woman, because we all have beautiful hair, and if we let it grow, we all have beautiful hair. And if you're a man and you see a woman with long, luxurious hair, it attracts you. If you're a woman and you see a man with luxurious long hair, it attracts them. So we can understand, we already know the reason why the hair is covered, whether we're being stubborn or not. Points, a lot of key points I make here. As I say, I just freestyle. I'm just talking. I'm talking from a mindset, what I think and what I'm researching. Now I understand. As I say, it's about the mindset of things. That's why SJ Cartier Limited Convos is here, because I've realised in the world a lot of people like to talk just to influence them, people to feel like, oh, I ain't telling you to follow my rules. I'm showing you how I understand things and how I decipher things. And it's for you to look into things and decipher what these things mean to you. Whether you're marching around England talking about you don't want no asylum seekers, or whether you're dressing modestly or not. It's all about how you perceive it. So for men, they have to wear a kippah. Sorry about my pronunciations, as I say, because as I say, I'm not got the tongue, the Jewish tongue. So a kippah, a skull cap worn by many Jewish men as a sign of respect for God. They wear that as a sign of respect to God. Remember, the Jewish story is in the Old Testament. Remember this. Never forget this. Yeah? Jews. Yes, it's following the Torah, but the Torah is the Old Testament, basically. If we know this. Peyot. Some Orthodox men grow long side curls as a tradition. So that's a tradition, they grow the curls there. Talit, a fringe prayer shawl worn during morning prayer, often large and white with decorative stripes. A kittel, a white robe worn by some men, especially during Yom Kippur and the Passover Seder. A gartel, a belt worn around the waist to separate the upper body and lower body. A shrutmil, a fur hat worn by some ultra Orthodox men on Shabbat and holidays. So as you see, for men, there's not much really there other than the skull cap that they say. There is, what's the word, asked of you. Everything else is down to your perception of when you wear these things. By the seams of it, it's not like it's not telling you why you need to wear it to cover some modesty here or modesty on your legs, or it's not telling us that. It's just saying the skull cap is to show a sign of respect to God, and everything else is just a tradition basically that they had, not specific rules. So as we see in the Christianity, there were specific rules of how men and women should dress. And then as a Muslim, there's even more specific rules of how we're supposed to dress, which weren't in the Jewish book, if we understand it. And as I said in the video that got so many likes, The main point of Islam is to guide the ones who follow the religion previously, but are been misguided. If you are following the books to the utmost, you don't need to become Muslim. You follow your book because that's the book that you've been brought up into. That's what you follow, because you're treating it by the way it should be. You're following the laws, you're following the rules. But when you are being misguided and you realise this dunya, this world has misled you into things, the Quran is there to help you find that path again. It helped me find my path again. It's helped a lot of brothers find their path. And if you're against that, I'm going to ask you a simple question. I'm not even going to ask you a simple, I'm going to straight point to simple facts. Yeah, I know gang bangers who have become Muslim, who were trying to kill each other previously, now shaking hands. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? Gang members who are trying to kill each other and have tried to kill each other now will sit and stand and pray together and shake hands and show pure love and have no hate for each other. Why? Because they realize now they are both Muslim, and they realize there is something bigger than the worldly life that we were beefing about. So they realize there's more to it, to life, than what we were fighting over and we were trying to kill each other for. Yeah? Overstand why Islam was brought here, to bring us all back together, really. But for some reason, there's some powers out there, that shaitan, devil, whatever you want to call him, that are drawing us all away from him. Drawing us away. We have to find our path back, man. All of us. Yeah? So for women now, how should they dress as a Jew? Yeah? Modesty, tis not. The guiding principle is to dress in a way that is not revealing, often covering knees, elbows and collarbones. So the Jewish ruling is modesty for them is to dress in a way that is not revealing. So that is a perception for us, yeah? It's not a direct rule of, oh, from there down. It's a perception that us as humans, remember, Allah, God gave us the opportunity, just like he gave Adam and Eve the opportunity. They had the opportunity. If we get misled, then God doesn't want us to fail. If we fail, then the other person wins. Other shaitan, devil is winning. We don't want them to win. We want God to win. So if you overstand, even Adam and Eve made mistakes because they only had one rule, and that rule they broke. So Allah continued to give us rules to allow us, because he realized we are weak. We are weak. We are misled by so many things. Due to what? Due to what? We have to question it. So Jews were only supposed to, women were only supposed to cover their knees, elbows, and collarbones. 3 specific areas. Yeah? Presumably, Allah was not pleased with that rulings, and that's why he brought more rulings into the Christian faith, into the Bible, and that's why he even verbally went deeper in Islam. Yeah? Hair covering. Married Orthodox women often cover their hair with a scarf or hat to maintain privacy. So how Jewish married women were supposed to be. So there, Allah was giving acceptance to the women that are looking for men. But if you are already married, this is how you should be. Whereas now, Allah is asking us to cover our hair whether you're married or not. Because he realized the non-married women were still dressing like that. And it was causing a lot of problems. So those problems could have been for the married men, for all we know. Married men cheating with the unmarried women, or even as I'm thinking of it now, if you're a Jewish man and you're walking around and you're looking for a fling, let's say, yeah, and you happen to see a woman without a headscarf, you know she's open, so you're more than likely going to talk to her than you're going to talk to the woman with her hair covered because you believe she's married. Again, it's about perception. It's about perception of what others are seeing in us. It's not about just how we are, it's how we perceive to others. Overstand that. Clothing. Skirts and dresses are typically worn to cover the knees, and tops have high necklines and long sleeves. Covering the body again, yeah? Layering. Many women layer their clothing to achieve a modest looking style, for example, using shells under transparent tops. Never heard of that before. So basically, to completely cover their modesty, they realised a lot of clothes you can still see through, so they would use shells to actually cover up those areas. Quite beautiful to think of it. It may actually draw more attention, possibly. Remember, I'm talking as a man. It may actually draw more attention. Possibly why it's changed now. I don't know. I'm not Jewish. Maybe a Jewish person would have to inform me of are women still covering themselves with shells under transparent tops? I'm not sure. Something I may have to research myself. General guidelines and principles. So as I say, there's a few pages I have got. So there's one, the last one I've just read, and now I'm going to go into the general guidelines. And the first thing for a general guideline for a Jew, yeah, is biblical laws, presumably Old Testament biblical laws, yeah. Traditional dress is guided by interpretations of biblical and rabbinic law. Rabbinic, that sounds Islamic. Rabbinally, possibly. Shatnez, a biblical prohibition against mixing wool and linen in the same garment. Okay. Tiznut, the principle of modesty, which encourages people not to dress in a way that draws excessive attention to their physical appearance. Fringes, the requirement to add fringes to the corners of four-pointed garments is a reminder to observe God's commands. And the main point of this video was to just overly show you that all women and men are supposed to dress modestly. So when you think you're Christian and you're judging a Muslim woman, asking her why she's dressed like that, you should be considering yourself as why you're not dressed like that. Because if you're Christian, then you should be overstanding why she's dressed like that, and you will understand why your book asks you to dress like that. And then if we overstand it, on the flip side, it could be the same for Jewish women. How should you dress? How should wear? And this is where I'm going to kind of end it here with a little comment to kind of make you understand things. As we say, we know nuns dress modestly, yeah. I'm not saying any church you go to is going to be completely modest, because we've just read not all churches dress traditionally as the church should. Some have their own way of running their church, yeah. But one thing we know, we all should dress modest, and we all shouldn't be judging anyone that dresses more modest than us. We should actually feel more ashamed of ourselves that we can't dress as modest as them, and that the life has misled us to even look at that as a problem. When in fact, this is how we're supposed to dress. This is how we're supposed to be modest in our clothes, because we believe being modest in our clothes will also bring modesty to our nature and everything around us. So I hope the birds are telling me I'm right. You hear them? So I'm going to leave you there with the birds telling you, do your research before we judge. And No Jewish, no Christian, no Muslim person should be judging anyone else if they are dressing modestly. Modestly. Because that is how all of our books ask us to dress. Whether we're male or female, it makes no difference. So thank you for joining SJ Cartier Limited Combos. And just to give you the little thing, this is part one of why are there so many arguments about religion. In fact, there are so many similarities. This is part one. Stay tuned for part two. Enjoy your day. SJ Cartier Limited Combos out.